Hey man, how's it going? Oh man, just as I was about to go live, or just as I was. What is going on? Okay, well now my face is not working, so I'm gonna leave it on the slideshow for a couple more minutes while I figure out why my webcam is not working. Um, it just asked me to give it permission to use. Oh, this is stupid. I need a real webcam. So the slideshow is my Infinity Combined stuff that I painted 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know, whenever that new Combined stuff came out, and I kind of threw that up because why not, right? Why not throw that up? Oh, I know why. I know why. It's because somebody called. So yeah, so just enjoy the slideshow. I will be back in 2 minutes to actually start the stream. I'm just having some technical difficulties, so please stand by. Yeah, so joy to the world, my webcam is not working. Um, and it was working literally just as I went live at 12. It was working, and then it stopped. So, but here I am. I'm here somewhere. Well, we'll go straight to the master shot, and I'm just gonna get rid of this because obviously it ain't working. Yes. So let's see. Is that that gives us a much larger palette? Oh, there's a wyvern on the screen for some reason. I wonder why that guy's there. I don't know. Could it be some sort of month coming up? Um, but anyways, good job, webcam. Good job. This is what teaches you for jury rigging. Here's what I would like you to do, webcam. Part of my reach across here, I'm just literally I'm shutting the whole thing down. Shut it down. And so if my hands look a little parched on me today, I was just stripping models. Actually, they look pretty good. I'm really zoomed in here. I'm going to zoom out a bit because then I can show you what is on my table. So I was stripping some models this morning, so I'll just quickly show you that before we get into Necromunda and my hobby challenge of the day, which I'm going to try and figure out on screen. So now it's asking me for... Sorry. I'm just trying to get the webcam working while I'm actually still blathering at you. Boom, typos. Yeah, oh, I get it. Okay. Alright, let's see. Allow. Let's see if I can get my pretty face working here again. It's just saying it's connecting, it's connecting, it's connecting. Good times. It's probably one of those things where I like have to restart my PC in order to get the connect. Yep, USB, automatic, bandwidth, okay, I don't know. Time for a real webcam, I guess. So anyways, I was stripping models this morning, just previous to going live, for some upcoming projects. This is a second edition Captain Tycho, 1995, so right around the time that the second edition Blood Angel or Angel of Death Codex came out, is that model. And this model, I believe, came out roughly around the same time. This is an Apothecary. So these two guys are thoroughly Jess Goodwin's second edition Space Marine models, and they're pretty cool. I like them a lot. So, strip those for reasons. And then I've got some fantasy error boys here, some orc error boys, which surprisingly are going to be on round bases because they're going to be in a 40k army. That is right. My 40k special project that, if you've watched my stream, you're well aware that I'm painting 40k Rogue Trader 40k orcs. They can get basically wild boys, which is what these guys would be called, which are the young orcs. So these are the orcs that have just sort of popped up and have built a rudimentary concept of a civilization, and then the space orcs come along and teach them the orky ways. So these guys will be like the fresh recruits, and I'll have a drill boss that leads them. And since I'm doing blood axes, I figured, well, they probably want to teach them how to shoot, so they're going to give them bows and arrows, or maybe they just brought their bows and arrows and they've just been unleashed. So that's what these guys are. They're wild boys that I will be using, and I have that'll be a squad of 10. I just needed to strip those 3 because I have a huge amount of orc error boys for some reason. I inherited many and have acquired many over the years. This is just the backpack for the Apothecary. So, and there goes the glue for it. And then the coolest thing that I bought, and you can see 2 of them here, is I got a runt bot. And again, this is for my Rogue Trader 40k orc army. You can't have runts without a runt bot. Runt bots are extremely useful, and it's funny because you could totally take this exact model and you could put it into a game of Epic, and it would basically just be like a little stomp of Gargant. And what else we got? We've got these. This is one of the reasons that I bought that particular runt bot off a guy off eBay, was because on the same base were these 4 little snotlings, and these are 4 little snotlings that I don't own, and I have a problem with not owning all the snotlings. And I have a feeling, I kind of did some research looking through some catalogs and stuff online. These four runts or snotlings, I believe were only ever packaged in a blister with that runt bot. So that was the only way to get these. These were never packaged into like just a regular blister of snots. So I'm pretty happy that I've got these. I like this one with his finger up in the air. I like this one with his finger in his nose and his little helmet. And then these 2 guys are they're just useful, cool little snotlings. So that's 4 more to add to the giant pile of snotlings. I'm just going to toss them in there now. There they go. And when time comes to, yeah. So, on to the hobby challenge for today, and this was kind of my joke. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw what I was talking about. Oh, and if you want me to talk about my Infinity Army, my combined for Infinity, I can do that too. But right now, it's hobby challenge time. So what's my hobby challenge? Well, I broke a model. Oh, I broke a model I was working on. And I don't remember breaking her because when I put her down, she seemed okay. When I came back a while later, the front of her needle gun is missing. And that is a very, very small break there on the tip of that. So I have to figure out how I'm going to fix it. Now I have a number of options. I could use a piece of paperclip and try and drill a hole, insert the paperclip in. It will have to be a very, very, very precise and small hole, and it will probably actually end up losing a lot of this because the bit I use will just chew away around the edge. And it'll end up, the hole will end up further back, which may just have to be something that I could fix with green stuff later on. So I may have to embiggen this regardless, but I'm going to try and get a drill in there. I might start with a really small bit and work my way up if possible. And then with this, if you look at the way that their needlers are, they're basically like a needle, like a hypodermic. So they've got an angled tip on them. So the idea is that I want to be able to cut this so that it's an angled tip. I thought about using some brass rod that I have, but the brass rod that I have, which would probably be better and the right thickness, is really soft. And that's this. I use this for pinning a lot. And I have a bit that would fit in there, and then I could insert that and then cut the tip. The only problem is that keeping it straight. So I kind of pulled out, sorry, move that backpack off of here. I pulled out this pair of, if you ever worked at Games Workshop in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, you may recognize these. Good tools will last you a long time, so I've had this for at least 2 decades, at the very least, probably longer. But if I try and like really squeeze and straighten this, the other option I have was I was going to use a sewing needle, and I have a sewing kit somewhere. I just have no idea where that somewhere is at the moment. So I could take a needle out of that, and I thought that might actually look pretty cool. I even looked at some pins that I just have lying around, like some safety or some thumbtacks, and I thought, well, I could take the pin out of a thumbtack and use that, and then the front of the needle, the front of this particular needler would just be like this, like needle tip, right? I didn't know if I wanted to go that way. This might work. I have to make sure that I drill the hole nice and straight, and then when I put this in, I have to cut it and then hope that it stays. The other option, and this was sort of the more drastic, how do I fix my problem option. It does look cool. Sawn off needler, Alex says it looks cool. But I kind of, since it's the only needle gun that I'm starting, my starting gang, I kind of want it to be right. So I thought of taking one of these plastic needle pistols and replacing the front on it. The only issue there is it's smaller and different. enough. Let's see there. It's considerably smaller than this, and I would probably have to cut the whole front of this off and then mount that on there, which could look cool. But another option, which again would be the nuclear option, would be as I cut this barrel right down to like here, and then mount this on the front of it, and then it almost looks like a carbine, right? So it'd have a very short barrel, but I kind of like the sniper rifle look to it. Even though these weapons have like a range of 18 inches. So they're definitely not sniper rifles. The other option is, excusez-moi, I take the front of a needler off one of these Forge World bits. So I have a needle pistol there, which I kind of wanted to use. That actually is like an the arm is designed because it's got part of the cloak on it here. It's actually designed to work with the Gang Queen's jacket, so it would actually replace this arm. And I thought about making it so that this arm could be removable, and then I could have multiple loadouts for her and switch out the bolter needler for just a needle pistol. But I figure, you know what, she's probably always going to carry that bolter, even if she's on like a stealth mission. Although pistols are cool for close combat, I think I just like her the way she is. And if she has an alternate loadout, I'll probably just paint an entirely new model for her. Consider that. I do have another one of those headdresses. I could actually duplicate that head quite easily, and put that on a completely different model with a different set of weapons and call it my Gang Leader Mark II, which is the cool thing you can do in Necromunda. I'd vote for drilling it out and place the tube. What tube? Vote for drilling it out and place the brass wire, or the paperclip, or the front of this needler, which is actually about the right size. I'd need to go and it's a little bit warped, so I just need to. But that's easy enough to fix with a little hot water. So I could just take the front right off and put that there. Because I want to be able to pin it, so I would cut it off at the back here. You can see where my fingernail, right at the back here, I chop it there, and then this I would chop. You can see that there's right there on the front of this barrel. I'd chop it there, and then drill in, and then stick that whole piece on, basically from there to there. Pin that on. That is probably sawing off needler is a fun idea. Yes, it is, but at the same time, this is the only needle rifle in my starting gang, and I want it to look like a needle rifle, and I kind of like the snipey bit of it. But here's probably the if I go with the option of cutting this off and replacing this, because I could just take this hand and replace it. I could put a different pistol here, and still keep this arm for use on something else. In fact, I may end up doing that. I may end up replacing this whole pistol with like a plasma pistol, only because my old gang leader had a plasma pistol and a power sword, and if my new gang leader had a plasma pistol and a power sword, that'd be cool too. So if I'm doing this and I somehow manage to flub it up so bad that I have to abort, then I will cut it down to here and do the sawn off stubby gun thing. I think I like that idea. But I think I'd like to maintain the length of this barrel because I think it's cool. If you like the snippy bit, you shouldn't have broken it. Well, you know what? Tyrant of Badab, go fuck yourself. And I mean that sincerely from the bottom of my heart, which is deep inside my body. Alright, what else we got here? So I believe I have another, but I kind of want to keep that. I think I have another... Oh no, I didn't. I used it on a model. So that is my only option. So those are the choices. I am leaning towards a full-on surgical replacement of the entire barrel. Because I think this is very, very small. I could drill a hole in there because I do have a pin vise that can drill a hole in there. This is a 0.5 millimeter bit, and if I'm slow and steady and I win, I can achieve that. I've done smaller. Or I cut it here, flatten it, drill it, and then add this piece on, which is where that's how I'm leaning. is just a full-on replacement because this is not broken. It's as simple as that. I could use the plastic one, but the plastic one is considerably smaller. Like here's the Forge World needle pistol, and here's the needle pistol that comes on the new Death Maiden Wild Runner sprue. So huge size difference there. So first thing I will have to do, and this is easy peasy, I'm just going to cut it straight onto the paper here, and I'm going to check. This blade is gunky, so I'm going to replace this blade. And I'm going to get a new blade. Hey, you guys get a tutorial on how to replace X-Acto blades. Whoa, bonus tutorial. So this is where I keep my Sharpie sharps. Ooh, so sharp. So sharp. And we will... What is that? Tape. Who was cutting tape with this? That would be me. That's probably why this blade is gunky. I was probably cutting a box open with it. So we'll tighten that up nicely. Fresh new blade for a fresh new day, for a fresh new week. Yeah. So how's the chat going? Oh, we're getting the PG-13 early today. Hey man, you know what is funny? If I set this stream so that it's appropriate for children, there's no chat. So I have to set it not appropriate for children in order to enable the chat function. So yeah, you can, you know. So, and then, oh, sorry, let me clean that up. So there's you can see just sort of where I just want to flatten it. So I'm just going to plane it across the back here so that it's nice and flat. And then I'm going to drill a hole into it. So literally I'm just planing with my blade to get that flat. Check around the edges, make sure that there's no area that's really raised higher than any other, because I'm going to use glue obviously to gap fill, and I bet this is not showing up on camera because this is a really small piece, but that's just the way it goes when you're doing emergency triage on a model. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I'm just going to put that down for a second, move that aside, and now on to her. She needs a little bit more love, so I'm just going to put a piece of blister foam underneath the back of her here, and I'm going to figure out where I need to make this cut, which is about here. And I'm actually, on this, I'm going to be super, super gentle, because this is also resin, and I don't want to break it. I don't want to snap anything. So I'm actually just making a mark. And then, this is probably not going to show up on camera, but this is a razor saw, and I'm going to razor saw it. So I use the knife just to sort of guide me in. And there's a plug for Army Painter right there. This is an Army Painter razor saw. When I was a kid, I used to buy them made by X-Acto. I'm pretty sure that it's probably made by the same. And this should not take more than a few gentle slices with the saw, because it's not a big piece that I'm cutting, and it is just resin. And I'm just going to be really careful doing this. And it's getting close to my finger there. That's just an occupational hazard. Try and do your best to not cut yourself. Again, I'm just doing this really slowly and really meticulously because I do not want to break it. So, yeah. I could have just, gone in there with the clippers and clipped it right off. But this is, okay, so now I'm going to be really gentle because it's starting to go. So, and there it goes. Boom, look at that. So, same thing here. I'm just going to grab my nice sharp knife and I'm going to plane this nice and flat. So, around the edges, sort of where I came in, where I came out. You can see sort of the angle of the cut sort of went this way, right? So if you look at the and it's all good because I'm going to have to do this again, because once I drill, a hole, I'm gonna have to go in and smooth it again because there will be a little bit of a bore build up around the edges of the hole. So I'm gonna put that in the middle of the screen. Hopefully this is all looking good. So let's see, how's chat going? Little tube at the end of the weapon is the worst part of the design of the needlers. Yeah, it's you know you have to basically respect your miniatures at that point, especially if you're playing with resin. I'm glad that they put some needle weapons on the new sprue. I wish there was a needle rifle on the new sprue so you could actually, get a. But then you wouldn't need to buy the Forge World stuff, right? It's funny because when I'm talking, I'm staring at my web camera and all it is just spinning and saying connecting, so you guys can't see me. But that's all good. It's all about. There we go. I swear the first thing I cut with a razor saw every time I get. They're so sharp. So what's the number for the Canadian Emergency Services? Won't drilling out the barrel to pin in a new head just introduce more points to break later? Oh, I'm not drilling out the barrel on this, you mean? No. But I'm drilling out here, and I'm drilling here, and it'll be pinned together. And at that point, it's never going to break, because I like to pin things, and I'm good at pinning things. Just to go back to the slideshow, the models here, every joint on all these Infinity models is pinned. Every single join, regardless of where it is, has this little piece of brass rod in it somewhere. So shoulders, where the hands meet the guns on these guys, at their shoulders, it's all pinned. When you see, these guys, so they're all pinned to their shoulders. They're also pinned to their bases in some places. Because, no, they don't need to be pinned to their bases because of where the joins are, but all the shoulders and the heads are all pinned. Pinning is, so this is what I use, and this is all I have left, and this was a giant spool a long time ago. This was a giant spool of brass rod, or brass wire, a long time ago. Drilling the barrel, that's the barrel. 10 out of 10 clippers. Yeah, check these bad boys out, man. Like I said, if you worked for GW back in the 90s, these will be quite familiar to you. And yeah, I still have them. These are busted, but these ones are still good. Still good. I also have the black Euro Tool ones somewhere. And then I have these, and I don't ever remember buying these. It's entirely possible that I went to a Games Workshop and at some point I was doing hobby with some people there, and this may have left with me, so I don't know what the statute of limitations on taking things off of the hobby table at Games Workshop is, but if you want it back, I will return it. I promise. I'll bring it back just the way it is right now. That could be. I honestly have no clue how I bought that, because I wouldn't have bought that particular one, but somehow I own one. So who knows? All right, so here we go. So drilling out the barrel. So I got my little. This is a Tamiya pin vise, and I'm gonna find roughly the center of the hole, and I'm just gonna gently start turning. And I'm going to stop and check to make sure that I'm on track, and if I need to see, because I'm sort of going in on an angle. I'm not going in directly straight, because I want to establish my hole here. And I'm going to go a little bit this way. And then I'm going to straighten out, and I'm going to start twisting. Gently twisting. I'm just going to keep my eye on the prize here. So that's a little bit off center, but that's okay. I just have to make sure that I'm putting my my hole in the other one off center as well. I don't know if you can see, it's totally off center. The level of drama on the screens is sharp objects and criminal confessions. Where will it go from here? Who knows, man? I could start telling you about the lizard people who live on the other side of the moon, on the dark side of the moon, but maybe that's saved for another day. So I'm just going to go in a little bit further. I don't need to go in too much here, because I actually want to be able to position it. The deeper you go in, the less I'll actually be able to maneuver it. And I'll explain that when I get to the gluing part. So that's pretty deep. That's probably about 1 millimeter deep. Let's just see here. All right, so there's that one. So now I'm just going to take a quick look at how this is going to match up here. So you can see the hole is quite off center. I would say that I normally would be much better. Obviously doing it on camera has thrown me for a loop. So I'm just going to see where that off-center hole would line up on here. With this, kind of like that, kind of like that. Okay, so it would be off to the left a little bit. So I'm just going to try and match up as best as possible. My off-center drill is on this side. I'm going to try and off-center it as well. So gently, gently, gently establish my way in, and then slowly drill. And you just want to check it every now and then to make sure you're on the right track. So, good enough. This one's actually a lot more center, so we'll just keep it. And what I usually do is I'll use a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of green stuff in there, just so that I have some wiggle room, so I can wiggle it a bit and position it so that it's straight, because obviously no matter how much I plane away at it with my knife, this will never be perfectly straight, and this will never be perfectly straight. So like the tiniest amount of green stuff in between there helps you sort of wiggle it and jiggle it and get it in a good way. So that's that. So I'm going to insert brass wire into the front here. I'm going to get some glue first. And something that I've found is the best way to do this is to apply the glue to the pin. This glue has seen better days. It's actually pretty much ready to be replaced at this point. I have its replacement already, but I don't waste not, want not, right? There's a tiny bit left in here. I could even replace this because I have some replacement caps for it, but it's almost empty, so whatever. All right. And so I put a little bit of glue on there, and I'm just going to touch that with the glue, and then we're just going to slam our pin home and push it firmly. Firmly and with confidence, insert your pin into the hole. And then this is my like odd trick that I will do once it's in there. Is I'll get whatever pair of clippers I'm actually using to cut wire, and I use these to cut wires. I use clippers for different things. So my green handle clippers, these are some nice Japanese clippers. Mr. Tools, so I use those for plastic sprues. And then I have ones that I use for metal. These are actually pretty decent for metal because they're quite strong. But I use those, sorry, that's just drying there. Moisture helps super glue dry, cure a little faster. So if you kind of heavy breathe on it a bit, it actually will dry. So what I like to do is I actually like to cut it on here, because I find that the act of cutting it helps to sort of jam it into here a bit more, but that didn't really work that time. And sometimes it sticks better if you do it like that way. So I'm just gonna look at this, and I'm gonna test fit it. I should be able to just pull this apart easily enough after I stick it in. I just want to test fit, see how much wiggle room I have. Quite a bit. So I'm gonna leave that there. Down here, I'm just gonna drill this hole a little bit deeper so that I don't have to trim the size of the pin to the hole. I just extend the hole a little bit deeper so that that works out. And I may not even need green stuff just because this is so small. A little bit of super glue may actually just be sufficient to get this looking right. So I'm going to check the chat here because I'm going to take my eye off the hobby stuff for a second. Pure nostalgia. I accidentally stole many pairs of clippers from GWC. I think it's probably written into their like it's probably budgeted in to their like profit and loss is like missing hobby tools from our game centers. I broke my GW clippers when fixing some metal models. Damn, they snapped and flung one of the clippers directly at my head. Yeah, I think everyone may have broken a pair of clippers. There was probably a lot of clippers breaking in the mid 90s, as especially over here in North America, we switched over from lead to white metal and then to pewter. Although the white metal, I think the white metal was basically like a pewter mix, but it was garbage. The first few white metal models that came out of the foundry in Baltimore were heavy and rock hard. Yeah, exactly. They're likely more strict these days than they were back in '98 because we used to write that stuff all the time, of course. And I certainly don't. I'm not saying I consciously took it. I'm just saying that I can't explain where it came from otherwise, and I'm exploring all possibilities on that. So, just going to. So I'm just going to add a little tiny bit of glue here, maybe, if I can get the glue to come out. Oh, there it goes. I kind of like super glue when you get down to the bottom, because at that point it's pretty thick, and it doesn't cure as fast. Like it wants to cure a lot slower because of its thickness. So we'll stick that in, and then we'll just straighten out. Sorry. And there we go. And then I'm just going to push it. And you can see I will have to go in later on once this is all dried and cured and all good. That looks pretty straight from the top. And straighten the barrel out, which just means that I'll run it under a tiny little bit of I'll run it under some hot water coming out of the sink in my bathroom. And then I'll just be able to straighten it, but I want this to cure first. So I'm just checking it from all angles to make sure that it looks straight-ish enough. And then I'm not going to touch that until this evening, probably. So yeah, so there we go. Boom. Replaced. Fixed. Better. And it should be fine. I will prime it this evening. Once that's had a chance to dry, you're better off just leaving it alone, letting it do its thing. If I need to re-glue it, although I don't think I do, I think I've sufficiently put enough glue on there for that. So yeah, so there's the hobby heroics part of the day. Rescued that model from sadness and turned it back into gladness. So I'm just going to clean up some of the bits that I had floating around that I was using. We'll put the knife away, because putting knives away, especially sharp knives, is always a good idea. And I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do for now. I want to paint because I'm behind on these girls a little bit. I need to have them finished by Wednesday. So Wednesday is the drop dead day, so Wednesday will be a big show. And tomorrow, there won't be a show. Tomorrow is a day I have to be an adult, so I will be adulting tomorrow. And as a result, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start painting. And I'm just going to paint in solitude here, and I'll check the chat every now and then, and we can kind of chat, but I'm going to break out my paints, because I want to get some work done on these, and I may end up cutting the stream at around 1 o'clock today. Only because I'm going to keep painting for another hour, and I'm going to do a pre-recorded hour that I will post tomorrow. And then on Wednesday will be the drop dead day for getting these Escher done. And they're getting there. I did some metallic work on them to sort of plot it out what's going to be metal and what's going to be something else. I did the gold. And washed the gold with soft tone. Army Painter soft tone over Retributor Gold from Games Workshop. And then I will highlight that up and then do the gems. My gems I do a very, very simple thing for the gems. So wow. Yeah. These girls, I don't want to do their bows all metal, but I do want them to be metallicized a little bit. So you can see they're kind of gray right now because I basically painted them with the same contrast that I did on their leather. I did the same contrast. But what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably just going to edge highlight with a like darkened iron, so that the bows look like they're like heavy carbonized metal, because they should be metal. Spring loaded, whatever. Then I have to do the shoulder pads, which I think I'm going to do as like a brown leather, sort of something a little earthy, a little subdued, so like typical brown leather for these pads, and I think that'll sort of help with like the wild aspect of them, that they're, you know. And then over here I've got to do her skull. She's got a little pelt down here, and I've got to finish this, which is going to be easy enough. The skin on them is essentially done, so what I really need to do is finish the metal, because that's where it meets the metal. All their boots are all metal and stuff, so and I want to do the bases on Wednesday, so I have to finish the metal on their feet so that I can do the bases on Wednesday and show you guys how I'm going to do that, because my bases are really simple, and I just want them simple and subdued, and you can see that it doesn't get much more simple and subdued than that. There's not a lot of color on them. It's basically just washed and dry brushed a little bit, and you can see the rim. I painted the rim black, and it's wearing off because it's weird that I guess I need to paint that again. I guess I didn't varnish them. All right, so metallic. So the metal that I'm using as my base coat. Are you guys ready to see the brush I'm using today? Oh, it's the classic gunk brush. And I've already got some bolt gun here. We'll see how that's looking. Probably add some water to it and get it rolling again here. And I'm just going straight on with the bolt gun, so I haven't added any black or anything to this. So it's gonna go on it's gonna go on pretty shiny. You'll see how it looks there. But once I wash it down, you'll see the sort of effect that I go for on this. So I'm just gonna clean off that brush actually, and then go back in and get. I guess one of the advantages of not having my webcam working is that you guys can't see me eating my paintbrushes. So her toe, she's got some steel toe boots on there. Remember back in the 80s and 90s when you could walk around with steel-toed boots and spikes on them? Wait, could you ever do that? Yeah, you could. Do you remember back when? So I'm just painting her heels here. I think it's funny that they've got heels. I guess I sure didn't get the memo about sensible shoes. Sensible shoes are recommended for all excursions into the Underhive. Out of the way, you. So we'll get this steel-toe boot over here. Boot, 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 boot. And this steel-toe boot. And I'm probably going to do the quivers in that same like leather that I'm doing the shoulder pads in. Only because I want it to feel like they're things that they probably tanned themselves in the wild or whatever. In the wilds, whatever the wilds of Necromunda are. Get the back of her heel here. And again, rotate the model around your hand, you know, the way you're holding it, so that you can have the clearest access for your eyes as well as the clearest access for your brush, obviously. I don't even know if that needed to be said, but it's been said now, so tough. Didn't you have some good Didn't you have some good Escher Jews to add to this game? I have my old Escher Jews from my old 95 gang, if that's what you're talking about. I'm strongly considering using one. And this may be sacrilegious, but you know what? I've got enough Jews anyways. Using one, stripping her, putting her on a new Necromunda base, and using her as a lookout. Because there's the hangers-on that's the lookout, and I like the idea of using an old Escher Jew, because it's literally a kid. Like, she's such... The old Escher Jews are like tweens. So I kind of think that might be a cool way to use an old Escher model in my Escher gang. Because the rest of them don't feel scaled right. The rest, I could drag it out. I'd have to stand up. Oh, which is fine because, yeah. So I was going to take her and strip her. And by that I mean remove all the paint from her. Put her on a Necromunda base. Here she is beside a because she is armed perfectly for a lookout. Sorry, I shouldn't talk with my brush in my mouth like it's a cheroot or something. So she's perfectly, because she has an axe pick, an axe, and a stub pistol, which is what the lookout is armed with. The new, or not new, well, the hangers on that you can get. So there's her size comparison. So she's definitely considerably smaller. Here, I'll put her next to someone who's standing straight up. So she's a kid, man. Like, she is literally the kid. And I like the idea of having, if I get a lookout hanger on, that's what I would use. I'd use the kid, right? Like, she's not even Juve material yet. She might be good for a Juve one day. And if you look at the lookout stats, they're not great, right? But they do give you some cool benefits if you're defending your territories and things like that, which is why having hangers on in Necromunda is such a cool idea, right? They used to have them in the old Necromunda. They were kind of a little different, and you would never have them playing on the so I think what I'm going to do here is, no, you know what? I think I'm going to do that brass. I want the bow and arrow to look totally, you know. I do arrowhead. Sure. Just figuring out where I'm going to actually use this color on the models, considering that I may not have necessarily considered that. And like I said, I will take this bolt gun, or gunmetal, because it's Army Painter gunmetal, and I'll add a little bit of really flat black to it to do the actual bow and stuff. But anything like, you can see here on her chest, she's got a buckle, so the loop for the buckle, or the clips here for the buckle, would be metallic. So we can get those. We can get that there. We can get that on that side. I'm gonna have to go in and you can see like where her stuff meets her belt here. I don't know. You might not even be able to see this, but there's a metal ring here which attaches her pants. I got her Chemsynth, which all Escher models have Chemsynth modeled on them, but not all Escher carry Chemsynths. In my gang, I have quite a few Chemsynths. They are very useful if you are toxic heavy, and I'll explain what that means, what the Chemsynth does. It essentially, she has to, at the beginning of her activation, she passes an intelligence test. If she passes it, her toxic attacks for the rest of the turn, or her next toxic attack, it's one of those two. It's either for the rest of the turn or for the next toxic attack. Your toughness counts as one lower. So if you're a toughness 3 model, like most Necromunda gangers are, unless you're Goliath, but most Necromunda gangers are toughness 3. It means that if she has a Chemsynth, you go down to toughness 2, which means she needs a 2 or better to wound you. So Chemsynths are extremely useful. I bought a Chemsynth for my gang leader. I bought a Chemsynth for her, of course, so that she can toxify both her weapons. And I bought a Chemsynth for the girl who I was fixing earlier with the needle gun. So I didn't buy Chemsynths for the Wild Runners here, because they are quite expensive. And I figured that these girls would need to earn these. So I mean, they're still toxic. I think what I would say is that it's learning how to use the Chemsynth. Since you have to pass an intelligence test, like all Escher carry them, right? But it's whether or not you know how to use it well enough in combat, right? Because even though you use it to carry your toxins in regardless, what she's doing is she's like on the fly creating a toxin that's more potent by using the Chemsynth. So I would say that when you buy the Chemsynth for the model, what you're doing is you're buying the model's ability and the knowledge to use the Chemsynth. There, that justifies me having these on all the models, even though they don't necessarily have them on their gang card, on her feet. Some good extra juice. So yeah, so what's new? What's going on? I may just sit here and quietly paint. And like I said, I'll go a little bit long because I started late because of the technical difficulties. I can't believe that. Literally just like at noon, boom. Just as I was going live, all of a sudden my webcam just lost all connection. Good times. Just got some spikes here. Such slight details. It'll be interesting come October when I'm painting models with much larger, less fine details than these. Chest on either side. It doesn't have to be, again, I can go in and fix this. Sorry, I had to cough button there for a second. Take this little swig of water. So yeah, paint. I'm just going around picking out all the spots where I know I'm going to need to drop a little bit of metal. I was going to do the mouth of the quiver and the bottom of the quiver, but I think I might do those in brass. I think other than this ring down here, I think I might. I don't know. Now that I'm doing this, I'm kind of like, maybe it should just be metal, because that would be brass. That would be brass. These would be metal, but I'm not even doing those yet because I'm going to paint the whole quiver leather, like a brown leather. Let's do our other boot. At least get those done, right? I think I started to do them over here, and then quickly realized I needed to do these little spikes on the other foot. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Are you excited to pre-order another Marine Codex this weekend? I haven't purchased a physical copy of a Space Marine Codex since 6th edition, I want to say. Because, yeah, I wasn't really playing Marines. I may own... I don't own the 8th edition Codex either. Oh, no, I do own the 8th edition Codex because I got it for free. So, and that's a story for another time, I guess. Because that actually came out while I was working in retail and selling 40K stuff. Wasn't too long ago. So, yeah, I'm not. You know what? This Marine Codex, depending on, I don't have any copies of anything for 9th edition. I don't have the rule book. I don't have anything at all for it. That's good. I'll call that. So maybe I'll pick up a copy of the 9th edition rules. I'm sure someone's got an extra one from all that Indomitus nonsense. There's got to be extra rule books. I could probably grab one for a reasonable price. I'm just not, like, in terms of 40K, it's not the game that I'm looking to play right now. And I feel like it's sort of 40K sort of passed me by at some point around 6th or 7th edition. I started to my interest in not painting 40K, because I still love to paint 40K models, but my interest in playing the game severely waned in 6th edition. I didn't think 6th edition was that bad an edition. That was the one that did have some weird targeting rules. It really sort of tried to... It was 6th and 7th edition, I feel like we're trying to fix the problems. Well, I've said it before that I don't think 3rd edition is that great an edition of 40K. But 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition, 6th edition, and 7th edition were all essentially the same game at their core in a lot of ways, which is nice because you had some consistency of the system. There were minor changes between like 4th and 5th, and 6th, and then 6th introduced a whole lot of new stuff, which I think was a real effort to fix the broken system of 3rd edition. Whereas I think 4th and 5th were trying to build and sort of refine. I feel like 6th edition was like, we just need to fix this game, so let's try and do that. So they did some pretty drastic changes in 6th edition. I believe 6th edition was when they added you have to shoot at the closest target, and some other stuff that they tried to sort of fix in there. I'm guessing these are metal. So there's little bits of, yeah. Well, they are now. There are little metal rings on her leash here. Yeah. Good. How's it looking on the stream? 6th edition is what really opened the door of power gamers. 5th edition was least, but 6th edition was dumb. Yeah, I played a lot of 5th edition because I built my Red Corsair army, which is scheduled for a photography session. I did a photography session this weekend. I was a whole bunch of Old Hammer stuff that I painted earlier this year is what I was photographing. So now that that's out of the way, I've sort of built a schedule of going through and photographing a whole lot more stuff. Should I do her mask? I'm gonna do her mask silver, but I think it'll look more bestial if I do it in like a brown metal, like if I do it in like a brass or a bronze or even a gold, like even the same, like give her a gold mask. That might look cool. What do you think, chat? What color should I do her mask? I don't know. You figure it out. Okay, I'll figure it out. Yeah. So what was I talking about? I was talking about 40K. Talking about photographing miniatures. Yeah, so I'm going to be photographing a bunch of stuff. And I kind of have to do it on the weekend, so it's kind of like my Saturday afternoon project. Or Saturday morning I'm actually going to be doing a stream. So if you guys are aware, or if you're not, I don't know. I don't even know who's watching. I did a stream on Saturday where I went through some art and some stuff and sort of not necessarily hobby talk, but adjacent to what it is that we do here at the Eternal Chronicles, and I use the royal we because I want to include you in that, because that is sort of a long-term goal of the Chronicles, is to have a lot more user interaction, a lot more interaction with you guys, and I have a number of ideas for formats for that, and some things that I'm working on, developing concepts for how to do unique programming that only I can do, because anyone can paint on stream, but not anyone can be a product of my imagination, right? If that means anything. Gold or green, lime green. Yeah, that's Torben and Jankmaster. You guys are not helping with the mask there. Gold. I might go with the gold, because then at least it would match her belt. And it's probably not gold anyways. It's probably some kind of like space brass, right, or space bronze that they cast things in. You would think that, or maybe it's like Star Trek. Maybe it's gold pressed latinum. Listen to that latinum clink. This is nothing but worthless gold. You guys ever that episode of Deep Space Nine, where Quark has got like some giant transport full of latinum, and they take all the latinum out of the gold pressed latinum, and what's his name, Morn, the guy who sits at the end of the bar at Quark's, puts it in one of his stomachs, so he's got like all this latinum in his stomach, and at one point someone goes to clink the bars together, clink, and they just kind of clonk together. He's like, oh, it's the sound of gold pressed latinum, and they go clonk, and he goes, what, and he goes, oh, and he breaks it all up, and he's like, oh no, this is nothing but worthless gold. Yeah, old Star Trek, man. It's funny that that's now, like, if you think about it, Deep Space Nine, we're like as far from Deep Space Nine as TNG was, further than TNG was from the original series when it started. It was about 20. It was about 20 years. I don't know. How about painting it leather then, like a leather mask? Well, the strap back here I'm gonna do leather, and I think I realized that this part here is actually like the back of her head, so I have to go back in with the skin and do here underneath the strap that goes around. So I might do this strap leather, like the brown leather that, although it should probably be the same leather as whatever I'm doing this. So maybe this strap as well I will do leather. This, they have like a pelt here that's got like scales on it, so I have to figure out what I'm going to do that. Her belt buckle's gold. Her mask might look really cool gold. I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it right at the second, but I'm going to keep it in mind. She's got throwing knives, so those need to be throwing knives. Throw those knives. Throwing knives are cool, but I wish I could give them to gangers. I can only give them to these girls, obviously to start. But I mean, you can. I think once you go to the market, I can start buying them for gangers, because I think gangers would benefit way more from throwing knives. And we'll get the backs of the throwing knives here. The little handles on them. Do 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 do. And the little poison thing there, because obviously throwing knives are toxic weapons. You notice a theme here, buddies? I guess I'll do this metal. And then I'm sure we're not going to do the whip, but I might do the whip in the same brown leather as well. So I think that'll look nice. You got to do something, because so much of the rest of the model is black. You can't just go black with everything else. You kind of want to add some color. And obviously I can do that with their hair and with, you know, any decorations that they have. But these wild runners, I kind of like them pretty plain. I may not go crazy. I may go and just give them natural hair colors, because like when these girls are out running in the wild, when do they have time to, you know, go and manic panic their hair, right? I mean, that's a lot of work. First you gotta bleach it, then you gotta treat it, then, you know, and then you gotta dye it, and you get the blow dry and everything. So I kind of want these girls, I'll probably just give them like natural colored hair, so they look a little bit more feral, and then that way that will support the sort of the more natural looking leathers that I'm going to put on them. Obviously they still have the blacks, because that's the gang color that I'm going with, and I need to fix that up. That's terrible. So that's one more done, and one more to go for these girls. Woo. So we'll start with the boots. Put the boots to her. Her steel heels, which I'm sure, again, are just great for sliding across these metal floors. Maybe that's the secret. Maybe they're like ice skates. They're just super slippery. That's what makes Usher so fast. That's why these girls have a movement of 6 as opposed to a movement of 5. Goliath Jews do their hair. Wait, Goliath Jews do Escher hair, or Goliath Jews do their hair? Well, I mean, like, they cut a mohawk, right? Like, anyone can cut a mohawk. I have a funny mohawk story. I think I've never told my funny mohawk story on stream. So I've had a mohawk several times in my life. The first time was in grade 9. And I cut it myself with my friend Nico. We had just started in high school, so we were fresh, young, pimply-faced teenagers, going into grade 9. And after about a week of being in grade 9, I decided that cool kids had mohawks, and I wanted to be a cool kid. So I went home. My friend Nico, and I said, "All right, you come over. You got to help me cut my mohawk." And we used a pair of scissors we use like nail scissors, nail clippers, and clipped it all down. Cut all the hair off the sides of my head. Clipped he did the back, and it was not straight, and it did not match the front very well, and it kind of meandered a bit from one direction to another as it made its way forward along my head, um, and to the point where I think I wore a hat to school the next day because it wasn't the greatest mohawk, and I think I was a little embarrassed, and rightfully so. It was terrible, but I had that, and funnily enough, that grew out, and shortly after that, I was shipped off to military school. So that tells you where the influence of me cutting my own mohawk uh, wound me up. I spent the next 2.5 years in at a military-themed boarding school, uh, and that was the first time I had a mohawk. The second time I had a mohawk, this was after military school, so this would have been I would have been 17 years old because I'd done my 2.5 years of penance and had managed to convince my mother to allow me to go back to regular high school at that point. And that was a huge mistake. I should have just stayed at military school. In hindsight, I should have just stayed and finished things out there. But I wanted to go back to normal school. I wanted to be a normal human being. I didn't want to go to military school anymore and be away from all my friends and away from the city and all the bad influences that were reasons why I had gone to military school in the first place. So her mask is weird. I think her mask, I'm just going to do metal. I think I'm going to start around here. So the second time I got a mohawk, I just decided, hey, I'm going to get my hair cut, and I'm going to get a mohawk. I want to say this was probably sometime in the summer. And so I went to the local barber store out on Parliament Street, out in Cabbagetown. And I went to one, not my usual one, because I figured, well, the guys who normally cut my hair, I don't want to be embarrassed and go in there and be like, hey, can you give me a mohawk? So I went to just a different barber, just a different random barber that was just down the street a little bit further. And I sat on the waiting chair there for like 20 minutes while he did some other guy's hair. And then when it came to be my turn, I stood up, and I sat in his chair, and the barber said, okay, so what am I doing? And I said, oh, I would like a mohawk. And he kicked me out of his barber shop. He just told me, no, I'm not doing that, and literally just told me to get out. After I'd sat there for 20 minutes. So I was out wandering the streets, and I was angry because this guy wouldn't cut my mohawk. I was an angry 17-year-old boy. You can imagine the rage that was brewing inside me, and so I figured out, okay, well, where could I get a mohawk cut in the city? Where would I do that? The House of Lords, which was the hot, like, cool, hip place on Yonge Street to go get your hair. They used to have these commercials, the House of Lords. They'd have these commercials on late night television. Fantastic. Have you ever got your hair cut at the House of Lords in Toronto on Yonge Street? Big shout outs. It's Yonge, just north of Wellesley, south of Charles. The House of Lords. It's gone now. I think one of the guys who was there has opened up his own salon like further down in the Masonic building on Yonge Street there. But the original House of Lords is shut down, and I'm sure it's gonna, after having walked up Yonge Street last week, I walked all the way from Queen to Bloor just to see what the street was looking like. I stopped in at used bookstores and stuff there. Everything that's closed down in Yonge Street is now a weed shop, or it's a pharmacy, like it's a Shoppers Drug Mart, or it's a Rexall pharmacy, or it's like a little tiny drug, or it's like just the character of that street is just gone. And there's little pockets of it that are still there, but Yonge Street is just, oh man. So I think. Oh, I hit the mute button. Well, it's a good thing I unmuted. So I went to the House of Lords and asked them as soon as I walked in. I said, "So will you guys give me a mohawk?" And they were like, sure, if that's what you want. And I was like, that's what I want. So I'm going to do the bows now. So I'm taking some of this nice flat black. And so they washed my hair. And it was these two girls. Oh, so I think the one of the girls had never cut a mohawk before. And one of the older stylists said, we'll all help you out and they'll do it together. So I had these two, I'm a 17-year-old boy, and I have these two, like, cool hairdresser, nice young ladies washing my hair and chatting with me and potentially flirting, but I'm 17 years old. I was probably pretty daft and, dim to that sort of stuff at that age. So you can see I've added some of that flat black in here because I really want to make like a blackened steel that I can use. And all I'm going to do on these bows is I'm going to go around the edges, so like that, and then across the top here. So I'm just I'm leaving the black in there, and I'm putting this on. Yeah, that's what I want. And painting with metallics is pretty easy. There's certainly advanced techniques you can do with metallics. My friend John, who is occasionally in the chat. He might be in the chat right now. I don't know. I don't know who any of you people are. You all have these like weird YouTube names. But he does some really cool stuff with metallics. And his work needs to be shown off and celebrated. So, John, anytime you want to do a photo shoot, we can get that stuff photographed, and I can curate a nice little gallery for you on my website. And that's kind of what I want to do. Like I want to curate other people's stuff onto my website. I want to create a gallery of painted models there, and have like exhibits and things like that and interview the artists, and that's sort of where some crazy idea that I have for potential future endeavors on this channel may arise. Is this specifically in talking and interviewing people who enjoy this hobby in the same way that we enjoy this hobby. So I don't know if you can see what I've done, but I've added some very subtle metallics, almost dry brushing over the bow parts. Just these bow parts here, because I want them to look like they're like carbonated steel or whatever. They've been darkened, like a Rambo bow. A Rambo bow, like Rambo had in First Blood Part 2. Not a lot of activity in the chat, so I'm just going to keep painting. Like I said, I think what I'm going to do is soon enough, I will stop the stream, but I'm going to keep painting, and then I will upload that tomorrow, and you guys can watch that. Or I might just not do a show tomorrow. What would you guys rather I do? Would you guys rather I just keep going right now and stream till about 2 o'clock? Or would you like me to shut the stream down now, keep recording myself painting, and then post that tomorrow? I might be able to do something tonight that I could post tomorrow. It's just that once my kid is home from school, doing this sort of stuff can be challenging. And I wouldn't be able to do it until much later this evening if I was going to shoot anything for tomorrow. I may just not do a show tomorrow. I don't know. You guys tell me. You want me to shut it down? Or just keep going? Maybe no one's watching. Maybe I'm all by myself. Maybe I'm talking to myself. There are ways I can find these things out, but this is more interesting. It's almost like the not knowing is more interesting. No, I can look over and see that I have 5 concurrent viewers. The last time viewership was polled by YouTube's computers. I don't know how it works. I don't know how computers work. But I'm sure they've got a lot of them over there at YouTube. I'm just gonna keep painting. I think tomorrow, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll just put up a slideshow for like an hour, since I shot a whole bunch of photos over the weekend. That's probably pretty boring. Oh, conundrums. I mean, the fact that I don't have my web camera working is kind of ticking me off. But at the same time, this stream seems okay without it, right? You guys don't need to see my gorgeous face all the time. There's another bow. Alright, and another one. And another bow. So, there we go. I'll probably end up washing these as well, because it helps to discolor the metal. So I'll probably hit them with like a brownish wash so it looks distressed in places and whatnot. I'm not going to put bowstrings on. I don't think I've ever put bowstrings on a model. I'm trying to think. It's possible that a long time ago I painted an Archer model and may have used something as to make a bowstring. But I think I abandoned that as part of my hobby years ago, if I ever did. Like I said, if I did it, I might have done it once, and it clearly didn't catch on because I've never really put bowstrings on a model since. It'd be cool to do. If I was to do it right, I have the perfect material for it, but it makes your models extremely delicate, and that's, you know, I wouldn't do it for these per se, because they're game pieces, and you kind of have to walk that fine line between making something game ready and game durable, and making something that's a piece of or that's an expression of your talent, right? Something that's really, you know, that you go above and beyond on. Like I did reins on, so segueing into bows, wood elves. If you check my Instagram, the Eternal Chronicles, like the Eternal Chronicles on Instagram, or you can check on the Eternal Chronicles Facebook page, which, oh yeah, like and subscribe. I guess I think I was supposed to say that. Like and subscribe, hit the notification button down in the blah blah blah. But yeah, so if you check out there, you can see my Elven Attack Chariot, which was part of my photo session over the weekend. And so that is up there. You can go check it out. There's probably about a half dozen pictures. And this morning I posted the dragon. I was going to say, if I was going to put bowstrings on something, it would be on that Wood Elf army. Because that Wood Elf army is probably not going to get played with too much. Not that I don't want to play a game with it, but it's not going to be like a traveling thing that I would move around. Whereas these Escher are going to, at some point, are going to wind up in a case, being moved from point A to point B, and I don't want to be repairing bowstrings when I get to point B. So, so there's the bows, and that's all good. So maybe what I'll do is, to finish up, I will wash the metal, because that's going to need to dry and stuff. And then once I've finished washing all the metal on these guys, then I'll end the stream there. I got to take care of some stuff, and then probably going to be no show tomorrow. But what I will do is I will try and post as much stuff on Instagram as possible. It's also entirely possible that I just do the show later tomorrow. I might do the show around 1 or 2 o'clock. We'll see. It depends on if I can get my adulting done in a reasonable amount of time. So yeah, so I'm going to mix up some wash. And my go-to metallic wash is I just mix strong tone and dark tone together. And that, more strong tone, because the dark tone's basically black and it's very potent. So strong tone, I almost go like 2-to-1 strong tone. So I got a nice little blob of strong tone there, and then I'm going to drop a blob of this dark tone in the middle of it, and then stir them up. So 1, 2, like that. We'll call it at that. And then go with a slightly larger brush. Just stir it. Stir, 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 stir. And you do want to stir. Even though it's wash, you still want to stir as if it was a paint.
just to get that mix nice and even. And then I'm just going to start down here, and I'm just going to go right up. So the blade, I will go back over the blade and bring it up to silver, and then because it's a toxic blade, I will add a little bit more. But what I like to do with these is I like to add like a shadow effect to them. So along the bottom, I'll pull that up, and then we'll go across the top like this. And then when that dries, it'll be quite dark, but there'll be pieces of the blade sort of shining through. And you can thin it out as the tip. It'll actually, gravity itself will sort of draw it towards the hilt. And then over here, so we're going to do tip of the needle gun, and I like to lay it on fairly thick because I want it to dry dark, but not so thick that it, not so thick that it's too thick and it dries clumpy. So you want it nice and even. Get in there, get back there. Same thing on the other side. So basically anywhere where I'm going to have metallic exposed. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the sights when I paint them. I'm probably, so the housings of the weapons, I use kind of like a turquoisey look. I'll show you on my gang leader. Like the housing of my weapons is like this dark turquoise that I just think is a cool color. So that's probably how I'm going to house most of the weapons. Maybe not hers, only because I want her to stand out. She is my champ. I want her to stand out a little bit, so I may give her like a unique color on her pistol, because I think that'll look cool. But generally, the housings on the weapons I would do different, and then just make sure that you're keeping it even and getting the coverage you want where you want it. The great thing about Army Painter washes is they're quite viscous, and they will sit nicely how you want them. Sorry if I'm getting off center here. Okay. What else we got on her that's metallic? This back here. This little thing. Washes are great for hiding imperfections as well. Because see, like along here on the boots, got a little bit of metallic onto her boot, but this wash, like onto her boot part, that should be black leather, but this wash will dry dark enough, and you can see how, oh, maybe not, but you can see how I'm sort of adding, I'm going outside the lines a little bit because it's running into a black boot, and I want to create that line of delineation. And then do the horns like so. And again, the wash will settle at the bottom and create a natural shadow where the little metal horn there meets the boot. You'll get a nice line of delineation there. So same thing with this boot. You want to get up around the arch and then around the heel here and get her spiked, her little high heels here. The one who's got the best heels is the Death Maiden. She's got kick-ass heels. They're like spikes themselves. And then just on this side, just whatever. And then a little bit just on the inside there. And again, it doesn't matter if I'm getting anything on the base right now, because that's all going to be cleaned up when it comes time to do the bases. Which is easy peasy. So that's her. And now onto her. So I think I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. This is a nice brush, but it's and the brush I'm switching to is absolutely offensive, so enjoy. The brush I'm switching to is this. There you go. How's that? Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. So again, just getting around the arch, the bottom, and it's in, and that's fine. Like if the more the more wash you put on, the more of a shadow you're going to create. And the more of like a hard transition you'll create going from the leather of her boot, which that'll just dry black. There we go. Goliath, Jews do their hair. Every time I look in chat, it's like the same thing that was said like 20 minutes ago, so I'm discouraged that no one's chatting. Brr, come on, guys, say something. Say something witty for the camera. Ugh. Sorry, I just, like I said, I tend to wander when I'm painting. And I'm still working on the discipline aspect of keeping everything centered so that you, the viewer, can see what I'm doing. I'll do her mask. And again, so here where her skin is, I'm going to lay down some of this, and you can see it's kind of already flowed in a bit there, but that's going to help create a nice distinct space of where her face ends and her mask begins, which is always useful when dealing with a model that's roughly 30 millimeters high, right? So that's her boots. That's that little thing there. Do her arrowhead. There we go. And then her bow. So even though I did her bow with a much darker metallic, I'm still gonna wash it because, like I said, I want it to look discolored. It shouldn't look. It should look like it's been used and is not a pure metal of any kind. Because what kind of pure metal would they have in the Underhive, right? Got to go to the Goliath for that good steel. All right. There's one more. Put her over there. Come back, do this girl. So here we go. Toes. Toes. Around the heels. Gotta get that web camera fixed. Why doesn't it work? I paid for the app. It should work, but it doesn't work. Computers are hard, man. I gotta call some tech support. Woo! Okay, well that went down. That's under the desk now, so I'm just gonna gently. Oh, there's the back of my head. All right, she's back, saved from the floor, and that's the advantage of plastic miniatures over metal miniatures. Right there. She just hit the floor and gently bounced. I remember this one time, Nico dropped a Minotaur down the stairs. It was a Blood Bowl Minotaur, and it came in two pieces, the upper torso and the lower torso, and he was trying to glue it. And we were young and dumb, and so he just kept putting more glue and more glue on it, this Blood Bowl Minotaur. And at one point he's holding it at the top of the stairs, in my mom's old place back, this was 80s, and he's holding it at the top of the stairs, and the whole top just tips forward, and the top part of the Minotaur just tumbles down the stairs, and it hits each stair on the way down, and we're both just staring at this thing. This like soft metal giant Minotaur. And I think after that, Nico may have lost his mind temporarily, and was just so fed up. And I believe he did at one point just pick up the Minotaur and throw it outside. just like threw it from my living room out through the screen door into the backyard. I think he just lost it. So, yeah. Putting on the wash. It's very exciting. Exciting stuff. Get that arrowhead. And then get whatever that is. And then we'll do her bow. bow. This part of the bow. Goopy wash. I think I probably use this combination of washes more than almost anything else because it's just this nice dark brown, almost black, and it will give you a really nice flat finish when it dries, generally, if it's applied properly. And you stirred it, that's the other thing. You gotta mix those paints, man. So, alright. I'm almost done here. So, start her other foot. So yeah, another low-key Monday. I seem to be coming into these Mondays low-key. Last Monday I felt pretty low-key as well. I'm hoping that, obviously I'm not doing a show tomorrow, but I'm hoping that the Wednesday show will be high energy because I'm hoping that the massive impending adult thing that I have to do tomorrow, being a human being in this world these days, pays off and the net results are positive, and then that way Wednesday will be a fantastic day. So last one, so gotta make sure we get all around here. There's little bits of metal here and here and here and here, and then like we go from chain to collar and spiked collar. So we'll paint the spikes on the collar, and again, just throw it on there and let gravity do its job with it. It will pull it away, and you'll end up with a nice shade. Here, 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 here. And since I haven't painted the rope yet, I'm not concerned about carrying wash over onto the rope at all, because that's gonna get its own brown wash at some point. So we'll do her chemsynth, which she doesn't know how to use. We've established that she has no clue how to use it. She knows how to use it, just not in combat. All right. So there we go. She's got a little gas grenade, so that at some point I'll just be like, oh, and she's got a gas grenade. If I had like an extra few points, I'd just give her a gas grenade because that's fun. It's always fun that if you're having trouble shooting people, to just gas them. Just drop the gas bomb on them. And most people don't take filter plugs or flugs. Filter plugs. Sorry, I'm just blowing it out of the holes in the throwing knives there. And around there. And what else now? Now we just gotta do. Now we're on the home stretch. We're just doing her boots. Boots. And again, I'm not concerned about getting wash on the base, because that's all gonna get cleaned up. And you can see like where I've gotten a little bit of paint where I don't want to. I'll probably go back in with some black paint and fix those up at some point, because that's unfortunate that I don't know if you can see that, but so what happens when you paint outside the lines, right? Okay, and then around the back here, and then around here, and done. So you'll have to wait until Wednesday to see what color I paint her mask. If I do it gold like her belt buckle, if I do it metal, or if I do it leather brown, which might look interesting if it's like a leather mask, like made out of the same material that they make these like shoulder armor and pads out of. If I did that might actually look really cool. So we'll see. But for now, I'm gonna sign off, and I'm gonna bid you all adieu. I would switch back up to my face so you could see my face, but unfortunately I've disappeared, so I'll just put it back onto here. So that's my Infinity Army combined, mostly Morats. Everything in that picture is Morats. This army again was painted, I want to say 2000. Oh boy. Well, it was done when Ash was still working for Mini Wargaming Unions. So, because that's where these photos were shot. These photos were shot on the Mini Wargaming Unions table there, um, and it was actually this is the army that I used in the very very first video to ever appear on Ash's channel, Guerrilla Miniature Games, was me playing Infinity with him, with this stuff. So, yeah. So I threw these up here because I had them on my Facebook, and I was moving them. I was saving them off my Facebook so that I could add them to the eternalchronicles.ca. So that's why I just had them. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to throw them in the slideshow. People can take a look at them because I'm really proud of them. I think they're an awesome looking army. Um, and I think I did a really cool job on them, not to toot my own horn. And I still have them somewhere, and maybe one day I will play Infinity on the Eternal Chronicles, because you could definitely forge some cool Chronicles with Infinity. It had a great narrative aspect to the game, which I found they sort of moved further and further away from as the game became more technical. But I can talk about my feelings on Infinity another day. That is definitely a topic for another time. I think, again, the miniatures are fantastic. Absolutely amazing models to paint and collect. And so I guess I can add Infinity talk to today's about. All right then, so that's Christian for the Eternal Chronicles with no webcam today. Signing off. There won't be a show tomorrow, but Wednesday at noon I will be back, hopefully with a super kick-ass awesome show. And so yeah, we'll talk to you guys on the flippity floppity. Thanks, Tippity Toppers. Morats are cool, and my painting is great, Chris. Thank you, Tippity Toppers. And on that note, until Wednesday, peace out.